Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play the entirety of this video without any interruptions, and then I'll go back and talk about what's going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that were done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
This briefing will provide information about an officer-involved shooting involving members of the New York City Police Department. You will see relevant video footage and other available evidence that will allow you to gain a better understanding of the events that led up to the incident and what occurred during the incident based on the facts that we know at this time. New York state law and NYPD policy give police officers the authority to use reasonable force under appropriate circumstances. The department's Force Investigation Division conducts a thorough investigation when an officer discharges his or her firearm or in cases of any serious police-related injury or death. Sometimes these investigations can require as much as a year or longer to complete. Our understanding of the incident may change as additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed. Investigators are typically required to interview multiple witnesses several times, review many hours of video footage, and analyze a significant amount of forensic evidence. The images and information you are about to see may be disturbing. When a police officer uses force to take a person into custody or defend against an attack, the images can be graphic and sometimes difficult to watch. There may also be strong language recorded in the videos you are about to see. Viewer discretion is advised, especially for young children and sensitive viewers.
New York City 911, do you need police, fire, medical?
I need the police.
What's your address?
2405 Beaumont.
2405, you said Beaumont Avenue?
Yes.
Are you calling me from an apartment or a private house?
Apartment.
What apartment number?
Somebody in front of my building with a gun.
You said apartment.
Yes.
What are the two cross streets for the address?
Beaumont 187.
I'm showing East 187, East 188. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat your emergency? What did you say just happened?
There's a guy with a black jacket and gray sweatpants with a gun.
Did you see the gun?
Since they have such a long buffer on their body cameras, I am going to skip forward.
Charlie.
2.
We're at level 3. We got eyewitness.
Oh, yeah,
the
'cause
caller
she
said-
confirmed, right?
The caller said he actually saw
We
the
can
fire,
stop.
but I don't see any
Fire,
in the building.
24 data.
681.
681.
95 Charlie, University in Cross Bronx. David.
Hey.
What's going on? Do me a favor, taking us out of your pocket.
641. 641.
Take your hands out of your pocket. Take your hands.
Call a bus.
Call a bus. Ooh, can't hear anything.
Call a bus. Call a bus. I'm shot.
I'm shot too.
I'm shot.
I'm shot.
I'm shot. Call a bus.
I need a bus.
Is that a 24050?
Let me see your
My
hand.
arm. Show your hands. Oh, my arm. Where are you shot?
What's your location?
Where are you shot?
Again, I will skip forward some since they have a ridiculously long buffer on their radios. Or I'm sorry, their cameras.
You know what level we're at? No, we're at level 3. We got eyewitness. The caller said, the caller said he actually saw the firearm, but I don't see anybody in front of the building. Black jacket, gray sweatpants. Now Hispanic. What's going on? Do me a favor, take your hands out of your pockets.
Call a bus.
Call a bus. Can't hear
Call a
anything.
bus. Call a bus. I'm shot.
I'm shot too.
I'm shot.
I'm shot.
I'm shot. Call a bus.
In the coming weeks and months, the NYPD Force Investigation Division, in cooperation with the prosecutor having jurisdiction over this incident, will continue to investigate and analyze this incident as more interviews are conducted and forensic tests are completed. After the investigation is complete, the facts of the case will be presented to the First Deputy Commissioner's Use of Force Review Board, which will evaluate the evidence to determine if the use of force applied in this case was justified and within department guidelines.
All right, let's get back into it.
This briefing will provide information about an officer-involved shooting involving members of the New York City Police Department. You will see relevant video footage and other available evidence that will allow you to gain a better understanding of the events that led up to the incident and what occurred during the incident.
Okay, so they get a call about a guy in front of this apartment complex with a gun. And just like many officers across this nation, they responded to this gun call and did not have any long guns. Now, New York is a very, very, very large city, and there is the possibility that they did not have a rifle in their car. I don't know how NYPD equips their vehicles. I don't know if they have enough rifles to go around to put in every car. The possibility exists that they don't have rifles in every car. But if this car had a rifle in it, they should have got it out. When you're going to a call that involves the possibility of gunplay, someone's reporting a person with a gun, that means there's a possibility there could be a gunfight. And if you know you're going to a gunfight, you bring a rifle, and you bring your friends with rifles. Also, I think it's important to have more than 2 people on a call like this. Now, it did appear as though the other 2 officers that arrived right after they got shot were going there to get there with them. I think it would have been better if they would have all 4 made the approach. Increase their odds. But aside from that, long guns, they typically end fights a lot faster. They end gunfights a lot faster. Now, they decided to roll up with their pistols only. However, they were not walking or approaching with their pistols out. Their pistols were still holstered. And when we look at this footage here, it almost seems like he had his hands in his pockets to begin with. Obviously, he don't have a hand on any tool or anything. When we look at her, can't see very clearly what she's doing. It don't appear as though she's got her hand resting on her gun or anything. Maybe right there it does. But yeah, they go to this call involving a gun, and they're not, in my opinion, prepared for it. They do recognize that this guy fits the description. You hear it in his body camera as he's talking about it. But they don't do anything to be fully prepared for it. He rolls up on him pretty quick. He does tell him that he wants his hands out of his pockets, and then he opens the gate on him and steps in on him. It would be better if one of them would have their gun out to begin with and have lethal cover on this guy if he is the person reported to have the gun. I also think it would have been better, instead of trying to go up these stairs with this guy, to, instead of stepping up onto the stairs, tell him to come down, and that way you remain on this flat plane down here. Anytime you go onto stairs and start a scuffle, there's way too much likelihood of you toppling over and falling. I mean, there's just not a whole lot of workspace on stairs. You very quickly lose your footing. And if you lost your footing bad enough and went over, you could snap an ankle, and then you're not able to get back up on the fight. Now you're going to have to fight from the ground. And that's a crappy place to be fighting from. So, not a big fan of how they made the approach. No hands on their guns. No gun being brought out and held down tactically. And then not a big fan of how he went up the stairs after this guy. As soon as he puts his hands on him, this guy pulls the gun. You see it. Watch his right side here. Boom. He starts to rip it out and shoots. The male officer is trying to get control over him. Gun goes off. He basically slams him into the gate right there, and they both hit the ground. You can see the gun right there in his hand. He slams him up against the car and is trying to get him down onto the ground. And then we lose sight of him. So let's back it up and we'll watch the female officer. So just pay attention to what she's doing. That's a unique reaction right there to a gunshot. She very quickly gets her gun out. And then fires very close proximity. And then as they hit the van right here, or the SUV rather, she fires off another round. And the bad guy gets another round off too right in here. You see it hit the ground, and you see the sparks from where it hits. And then she fires again once they go down to the ground. She's a right-handed shooter, so right-handed shooter. And then transitions the gun to her left hand to talk onto her radio. And then in her body camera footage, we see her go back to right hand. And then we see back up, roll up. So not the this didn't end well for them. It didn't play out very well. I think if they would have remained down there, had their guns out, and be prepared for this, things could have went a little bit different. I don't think that I just don't think this was the best way to approach this. Let's go into the body camera footage. So radio in one hand, fiddling with it, and then cell phone in the other. And so you can see him once she gets out, radio in one hand, cell phone in the other. And this is what I talked about in my previous video about cell phones and work.
Charlie.
Two.
Hey, boy.
Hey.
651. 651.
Take your hands out of your pocket. Take your hands. Hands. Take your hands out of your pocket. Take your hands.
This goes quick.
Hands. 85.
Call a bus.
Call a bus. Ooh, can't hear anything.
Call a bus. Call a bus. I'm shot.
651.
Take your hands out of your pocket. Take your hands.
And so you can see
Hey.
651. 651.
Take your hands out of your pocket. Take your hands.
so he fires kind of low. All right, and this officer's left side is facing him. And you can kind of see his arm was outreached again. He fired another round.
Take your hands.
And you see the gun facing right at her. It appears this officer has one hand on the suspect's arm and his gun hand. So back that up.
Take your hands.
Pause. It's hard to catch it. It really is.
Take your hands.
Real hard to catch at the right moment.
Take your hands. Take your hands. Take your hands.
Anyway, you see him. He's got a hold of it. And he's trying to gain control over that arm, that gun arm. Boom. So he fires around as they come down. You actually, I think, from this freeze frame, you can start to see the slide go out of battery after he's fired. So this dude he's fighting. And this officer here, it's hard to see, but it looks like he's got this arm going up, and he's trying to push this arm down, get the gun away from him. And she fires again. Oops, back it up to here. Yeah, you can see the officer's hands wrapped around this guy's forearm right here, trying to keep the gun from going into him. And as soon as they turn and go to slam in his car, she fires. Now that's close. And then she fires again, which is hard to see with whatever the hell it is dangling around in her camera area. It could be a stupid mask. You can also hear a ting noise. So when she fires that one last round, I think one of her rounds hits this gate.
Call a bus.
Call a bus.
Now, it does not specify in the video what round hit him, the suspect or hers. I think there's a possibility that one of her rounds hit him. That's happened before. You would be surprised about how many police shoot other police. Even soldiers. Soldiers accidentally shooting other soldiers during wartime. Fratricide, friendly fire. It happens more than what you think, especially in very close dynamic encounters like this.
Ooh, can't hear anything.
Call a bus. Call a bus. I'm shot.
I'm shot too.
I'm shot.
I'm shot.
I'm shot. Call a bus.
I need a bus.
Let me see your
My
hand.
arm. Show your hands. Oh, my arm.
Now we'll go into his camera view. So one thing I noticed, he's got the portable radio in his hand while he's driving. So, I would think that their vehicles have mobile units in them for talking. There's a possibility they don't. And they just rely on portables completely. But again, the fact that he's rolling around driving with his portable in his hand, it's just a goofy way of handling radio stuff. It really is. But he's having to operate this way because he don't have a lapel mic on his radio. And if the car don't have a mobile unit, then of course one of them is going to have their portable out. Now, for him being the driver, I don't think it's necessary for him to be the one to keep his portable out. He should be focused on driving the vehicle. The passenger, if it's going to be a two-man car, they should be the one to have the portable out and be talking on it. If the car don't have a mobile in it. If the car has a mobile in it, they just need to leave the damn portables on their belts and use the mobile radio in the car. But again, I don't know how they got their crap set up. Interesting place to park. And it don't look like he's turned on any flashing lights or anything like that. Typically, when you park into the oncoming lane, well, this don't look like it might be an oncoming lane. It might be, well, it's got to be oncoming lane. Like, how else would these cars be faced in this direction? But yet, I see 2 green lights right there. I don't know. This could be a weird street. I don't know. But typically when you park out in the middle of the road, you want to turn on your emergency equipment to warn other vehicles that, you're parked out in the middle of the freaking road. But it don't look like they do that. You don't see any flashy lights, reflecting off anything.
You know what level
And this damn thing is ugly.
we're on? We're at? No, we're at level 3. We got eyewitness. The caller said he actually saw the fire on, but I don't see anybody in front of the building. Black jacket, gray sweatpants.
So he's communicating to her that this is the person that's matching the description.
No, Hispanic.
At this point, at minimum, their guns should have started to come out of their holster.
What's going on? Do me a favor, take your hands out of your pockets.
And you don't get to see much from his camera view. He's entangled with the guy, and then the camera becomes dislodged from his body. And I'd imagine he's probably using a holster mount. That's why it came off so easily. I'm sorry, not a holster mount, a magnet mount, and that's why it came off so easily. Not the biggest fan of magnet mounts for the body cameras. There's just too high of a occurrence of them to, or too high of a likelihood of them to completely fall off. That occurs many, many times. He recognizes that he's been shot. It doesn't really, I don't know to the extent of where he was shot at or what his injuries were. But they're both injured. And this goes into medical. So they park their car and have walked a distance from their vehicle. So they're not anywhere near their car. If they've got medical gear and it's in the car, and that's the only medical gear they have, that's wrong. What if this guy had started to run, and then they chased him, and then they got even further away from their vehicle, and then a gunfight happened, and they both ended up getting shot? And then it took a while for backup to figure out where they were. That is a long time to be waiting to be treated for gunshot wounds. In pre-hospital care, we have what's called the Platinum 10 and the Golden Hour. So these are time frames that equate to the sooner you get medical treatment, the higher your chances of survivability go up. So the Platinum 10, that's 10 minutes. If you can get pre-hospital care within 10 minutes of a traumatic injury, your chances of survival go up by X amount percent. And I don't know what that is. I can't remember it off the top of my head. If you can get treated and get put into a hospital within the golden hour, your chances of survival go up by X amount percent. And again, I don't remember what those numbers are. We could see from her body camera footage, when this guy pulled his gun out, he fired in kind of a downward motion. If he would have shot this officer in the leg and hit the femoral artery, he could bleed out in 90 seconds. And if your tourniquet is a block away in the car, the damn thing might as well be sitting in fucking China. It's okay to have medical gear in the car, but it's not okay that the only medical gear you have available to you is in the damn car. You have to carry medical gear on you. This is what I call first line medical gear. This is gear that you use for yourself, your partner, and or your family. At bare minimum, when it comes to first line medical gear, at bare minimum, you can carry just a tourniquet. I would prefer if you carry a little bit more, but at bare minimum, you can carry a tourniquet. And it can go on your duty belt and not take up a whole lot of space. It can go in a cargo pocket. It can even go in a medical ankle holster. If you're going to get a medical ankle holster, then you can carry more than just a tourniquet. You can carry compressed gauze. You can carry a nasopharyngeal airway, a pressure bandage, a decompression needle, gloves. If you wear an outer vest and there's no policies on what you keep on your outer vest, you can have that damn thing look like you're ready to invade Afghanistan with all kinds of pouches and shit. Then you can have, for sure, a decent IFAC on that vest. You have to have the gear on you to make it useful. If you can bleed out in 90 seconds and the thing that can save you is a block away, it might as well be sitting in China. Now, people can argue, oh, well, you can make a tourniquet out of anything. You can improvise in the field. Okay, sure. You could, or you could stop being a fucking dumbass and carry an actual tourniquet. This idea of being able to take your belt off and then use that as a tourniquet, as an improvised tourniquet, it's bullshit. It is about as much fucking bullshit as this mindset of buying a fucking box of tampons and throwing them in your med kit to plug bullet holes. Like, no. Like, you're fucking retarded. That shit is not going to work. You have to carry the medical gear on you to make it worthwhile. If you're going to carry the tools to induce trauma, you must carry the tools to reduce trauma. You should be able to save a life as easy as you can take a life. First line medical gear can be as minimum as just a tourniquet, or it could be an medical ankle holster with tourniquet, pressure bandage, nasopharyngeal airway, compressed gauze, decompression needle, a roll of duct tape, small roll of duct tape, extra set of gloves. Your second line medical gear or your supplemental medical gear can be the stuff that stays in the car. This can be a larger IFAC kind of bag or an actual dedicated trauma bag that has more gauze in it, has bandages in it, has more tourniquets in it, etc. Stuff that can be used to supplement the gear that you've already used from your person, and or it can be a standalone kit to be able to utilize on other people. Because I'm a believer that your first line medical gear that is reserved for you and your partners should not be used on other people. Unless you are 100% sure there is no possibility of any other gunplay going on. If you use your first line medical gear on someone, let's say none of them got shot, just that guy got shot, and only one of them had, first line medical gear, and they start to use it on this guy, and then his buddy comes up and starts shooting at them, and then one of them gets shot. If that's the only medical gear that you had and put into play, and now you or your partner are hurt, what are you going to do? Are you going to take that tourniquet off that dude, untighten it, and then put it on you or your partner? You going to, that's not likely. That's not very feasible. So, first line medical gear is reserved for you, your partners, and your family. Everyone else gets the supplemental stuff. They get the second line gear. Especially if they caused the problem. If they're the one who wanted to get into a gunfight, okay, well, they brought that shit upon themselves. They can wait the extra time that it takes for you to go back to your car and grab that gear or send someone to go get it. And you don't know if that scene's secure and safe enough to be able to utilize your first line gear. What if he's not alone? What if this was a tactic to draw police out, to murder police? What if his little buddies around the corner? You can't risk pulling out your only medical gear that could be used to save you and put it on someone, and then the fight continues to happen and you get hurt. Screw that. They can sit there and bleed. They brought that shit upon themselves. They can wait. Having the medical gear is only one part. You got to have the knowledge on how to use it. Now, most agencies and security companies will provide CPR, AED, first aid training. That can be okay. As far as the CPR, AED stuff, I think those classes, they do well for that. When it comes to first aid, having been an American Heart instructor, NASH instructor, and Red Cross instructor, I just do not feel that the curriculum for just the general first aid is sufficient enough to be able to treat gunshot wounds or to deal with traumatic injuries like gunshot wounds and stab wounds. Because the first aid block of instruction within those kind of classes is very bland, and it contains a lot of stuff. So it has stuff in there like how to treat hyperthermia, hypothermia, diabetic emergencies, allergic reactions, etc. And then it has a small block of like traumatic first aid. And like the application of a tourniquet. In the Red Cross curriculum, that is like a separate video, and it's kind of like an addendum that is not required for you to play, but you can play it if people have questions. And there is no hands-on evolutions with a tourniquet in those classes unless the instructor or the entity that the instructor works for has decided to purchase a tourniquet trainer. The bulk of what you have to do as far as the hands-on skills within that stuff is, show that you can wrap a bandage around an arm, do the Heimlich maneuver, stuff like that. It just doesn't focus enough on traumatic injuries to be really worth a damn. It's basically like a boo-boo first aid kind of knowledge. It's enough. It's enough to get someone killed. I'll say that. It's enough to get someone killed. So when it comes to getting the knowledge to treat these kind of wounds, you're going to need a person who's experienced or knowledgeable in that stuff. And a person who is a CPR, AED, first aid instructor may not be that person, because anyone can become a CPR, AED, first aid instructor. All you got to do is go to a class that's like 2 or 3 days long and have no prior experience whatsoever with pre-hospital care. No medical training beforehand whatsoever. You don't even have to have a damn CPR card to go take an instructor class. You can go take an instructor class. You could have been a person who worked at Walmart stocking shelves your whole damn life and go take a CPR, AED, first aid instructor class. And you can become certified to teach that shit to people with no experience, no background whatsoever in medicine. And one, that's scary as fuck. But two, that's not the right person that you want to be able to pass on the knowledge on how to treat gunshot wounds, because they don't have that knowledge. A lot of these CPR, AED, first aid instructors, they just read from the slides. That's it. That's all they do. They're a slide reader. They put in the PowerPoint and they read verbatim every damn slide, and they don't really have a whole lot of shit to say beyond that. They can't expound upon anything because they don't know how. They don't have the knowledge. When these people are asked questions, they draw blanks. So you got to be wise in who you choose to get your information from. So if your agency or your company has someone like that, don't use them. Don't use them at all. The better people to use are people who've had experience being an EMT or are EMT certified. People who are in the military who had lifesaver, combat lifesaver training, or were medics in the Army. Those would be, or military, those would be the better people to utilize to train your people up on how to treat these kind of injuries. Or if it's in the budget, hire a commercial school to come in and do a class like that. There's plenty of options like that out there to learn that type of trauma care, that type of pre-hospital care. So you got to have the equipment on you, and you got to know how to use it. Just like your gun. Like, just carrying your gun around is not going to fucking solve anything. It's not a talisman, right? You got to know how to use the damn thing. And so, just can't have it. You got to know how to use it. And you can carry all the medical gear you want. If you don't know how to use it, it's not going to be worth a whole lot to you. But on that same token, even if you don't know how to use it, there may be someone around who does know how to use it. And for these first aid kits or these improved first aid kits that happen to have a decompression needle in it, a lot of people will lose their mind over that. Like, oh, why you got a decompression needle in there? You're not a paramedic. You don't know how to use that. Sure, okay. Not everyone is trained on how to use a decompression needle. But that doesn't mean there might not be someone there who does know how to use it. And if there is someone there who knows how to use it, then guess what? You got this a piece of equipment that they can use to save someone's life. So get your medical gear and get your knowledge on how to use that medical gear. Not much else to say about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.